this is Lisa's Sewing Shop. Today I'm working on a heavy winter coat, and the lady brought it to me, and what happened was her pocket ripped. So in order to do this correctly, because this was put on by machine at the factory where it was made, one of the things we need to be able to do is get inside the coat so that we can actually get the sewing machine in there to do it. Now, yes, I am aware you could stitch this by hand, but it won't hold up with this nylon type fabric quite as long. So we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to work on getting inside. So what I'm going to do is go inside the coat. And I don't want to damage the zipper area. So what I'm going to do is come over here where the quilted part of the lining is. And I'm going to open up just enough of this seam so that I can get up there and work. Let me get everything set up, get everything ready, and I'll show you how we're going to do this. All right, so here's what I've done. This is the pocket right here that has been ripped, okay? On the inside of the coat, this seam that was right between where all the zipper stuff was put together and where the insulation was put together, that's the part I took out. Maybe 12 inches. Just so I had enough room to get my sewing machine up in there to work. Now, if I go in here and look, this is the back of that pocket where that's ripped. So right here, you can see where some of the thread is loose. That's what actually came undone. Now, what I'm noticing, there's a little rip right there, which would be the top corner of the pocket. I'm also noticing that this is kind of a plasticky kind of material on the inside, and on the outside it's kind of nylon. I know that's to keep the rain and the water from going through the coat. So we're going to be careful how we put that together. So when we do this, I'm going to go take a break for a minute, and I'm going to go into my stash, and I'm going to see if I can find a small piece of cloth that I can put on the inside right here behind this pocket because of that rip. I don't want it ripping out again for her. So I'm going to do that to see if I can put that on the inside as a reinforcement. So give me a few minutes. Let me see what I've got that we can use, and I'll be right back. So here's what I've been able to find. I had quite a bit of this polyester cotton woven fabric. So I've cut off about 1.25 inches wide strip. And that is what I'm going to use on the inside. Now, I'm going to make this go, and I'm hoping you can see this. There we go. This from here to here is the full length of the pocket. Because this is already ripped once, I don't want it to rip again. It was top stitched by the company when it was put in. So I'm going to do it the same way. But on the inside, I'm going to put this on the inside, the full length of that side of the pocket. That'll reinforce that, and that'll keep that from coming out again. So let me get situated, let me get everything on the inside, and I'll come back and show you what we've got. Now let me show you what we've got done so far. On the outside, I pinned the flap to the pocket up so it wouldn't get in the way when we were sewing on the sewing machine. Then you can see some pins here where I've started pinning this together. This is to hold the pocket flat to the coat front where this is come unsewed. We're going to do that all the way down to the end of the pocket. On the inside, right here where that little hole was, I think you can see that little hole right there that we were talking about earlier. I have doubled this little piece of supporting fabric up, and I'm putting the double part over the hole, and if I can get that through, there we go. And I was pinning it to the pocket front all at the same time. So I've got that through the pocket, the coat, and the repair strip of fabric to support this. And then every couple of inches, I'm making that flat and I'm going all the way down, and I'm kind of feeling this underneath here with my fingers to make sure I've got everything flat. And I'm pinning that as I go down through here. Now we're at the bottom of the corner of the pocket. So I'm going to put my last pin right there at the edge. So there is our reinforcement. Doubled up right here at the top where that little teeny rip was. And this is where I've got the pocket flap held up out of the way. So now I'm going to get this situated on the sewing machine, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to sew this. I'll be right back. Now I've got all this arranged, and I want to kind of show you underneath. I've got the lining underneath my arm here. Remember, we've got the extra little skinny arm here. And I don't know how well you can see that. Let me see if I can pull this off so you can see this. I'm putting the lining under the arm because we want to make sure we don't sew through that. I'm putting the top, the outside of the coat on top of the arm. Let me get that rearranged here for you because I wanted you to see that. Now right here is where the edge of the pocket starts. So I'm going to try to make this where you can see this, plus I can get it sewed at the same time. So I'm going to start, and I can feel underneath where I've got that little reinforced piece of fabric. So that's kind of good too, so that I can kind of follow that with my fingers. So we're going to start right here at the edge of the pocket, needle down, press your foot down, and yes, we're going to sew a back stitch, and I'm going to go all the way off the edge of the pocket a little bit and come back down on that. I'm trying to reinforce that a little extra, so I did the back stitch forward all the way back off the edge and then back on, and now we'll come down this way. Now I'm feeling underneath to make sure I've got everything flat, and I do. And I've got my pins going perpendicular to the direction I'm sewing so that I could sew over those. I've got my stitch length over here on the side set at 3.1 because I was trying to get it as close to the stitch length that the factory used when they made the coat. Okay, so we're going to go all the way across here. I can feel that reinforcing fabric under there. We're trying to sew right on top of the same line where the factory sewed when the coat was made. I'm being a little careful on the pins because I've got multiple layers under there. I don't want to cause a problem there, so I'm kind of slowing down a little bit on those. All right, now let's go a little bit further. There's over another pin. Now right here's the bottom of the pocket, so we're going to go all the way down. And now I'm going to go off the edge 1 stitch. Then I'm going to back up, and then I'm going to go forward again right to the edge. Again, just for a little bit of extra reinforcement. Okay, now, let me back my camera up here a little bit. I want to pull this out of here, and let's double check and make sure that we caught all of the edges. Looks like we did. Let me trim my thread off here. You know how I don't like loose thread showing. So before I take my pins off, I'm going to try to hold this up here so you can see how the top stitching looks. There you go. Now you can see it. Okay. Triple back stitched here. Triple back stitched right at the end of the pocket. Okay, now we're going to go inside. Now you can see where it's sewed all the way through the reinforcing fabric. You can see that. All right, now we're going to take our pins out. Now, if I can get this turned around here for you, try to get this long ways. I've still got the flap pinned up so you can see. That's where the hole was. This first half was ripped out. We sewed the whole thing, plus triple reinforced top and bottom. So I think you can see that. I think the repair is pretty good. Actually doesn't show up a whole lot, which is what you want. And it looks very nice on the inside, which nobody will see except you and I. But we know that that's been all reinforced now to help that not come out again. Now, here's the last part. We took this seam out because we needed to be able to get in there to sew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this together, and I am going to kind of pin this together like this on all parts, and I'm going to sew very close to the edge all the way down, holding all parts together so that this doesn't come out again. So I'll be sewing almost like a top stitch like we just did, except we're going to be catching all of this fabric at the same time. Give me just a few minutes to get set up and I'll show you how that's done. Alright, so while I'm pinning this, you can see where I started pinning this together. I want to give you a real quick clue on how I'm doing this. You can see, if you look up close, where the original seam was right there that I took out. And you can see that on both sides. You can see the little holes that are in the fabric. That's the original seam. So what I'm doing is I'm matching up those little holes with the lining plus the part that was on the zipper location, which was over here like the flap for the zipper. I'm matching those little lines up where that original seam was, and I'm putting that right back together in the same location that it was to start with. And I'm putting a pin about every 1.5 inches, 2 inches, because this is kind of bulky and I want it to hold nice and flat. So that's why I'm putting pins a little closer than I would normally. Okay, so I'm going to finish pinning this section right here, and then I'll be right back with you. Now we've got all of this pinned that we had taken the seam out so we could get our machine in here to repair the pocket. So now what we want to do is I want to top stitch very close to the edge all the way through both layers of fabric to hold that back together. That way it'll hold together nicely when she's wearing the coat again. So let me get the machine set up and I'll show you how we do this. Now this was very difficult to get in here where I could show you on the camera, plus get it sewed, plus get the needle under here. So what I've done is right on the edge where we were folding both of those pieces, that edge is keeping together top and bottom right under the edge where that needle is. You've got a slit right here in your foot. Look at that. Put your needle and line it up. I am like a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. So I've got my needle down. I've got my presser foot down. We're going to do our back stitch. And we're going to keep this needle right on the edge while holding both layers of fabric together. So I'm going to go a little slower than I normally would, but it's because I want to make sure that I don't let one of those layers of fabric slide apart where it won't hold together correctly. And I'm trying to keep my arm down here so you can see as best as possible. And I know this zipper placket is sticking up a little bit, so we'll do the best we can. And I'm pulling these pins over a little bit to keep them out of the way. Okay, try to see if I can slide this up a little bit. I've got a pin, I can't, there we go. I couldn't get a hold of the head of the pin. Almost to the end of the opening. I have a little pucker right there. Let me get, there we go. I had a little bit of pucker there that I didn't like, so got that straightened out. Okay, we are right here at the end. Let me get this over here as flat as I can. Now we're going to do our back stitch, and there we go. Let's cut our fabric. Let me pull this out. Now let's check it. Let me make sure I didn't miss any sewing on any places. Let me take my pins out. That looks good so far. Let me check as we go down here. Just check both sides a little bit at a time to see that you've caught all of the sewing. And then I'm going to pull this up here close to the camera for you in just a minute so you can see what it looks like. There we go. Yes, we did catch all of it. That's good. Okay, so here's the front side, which was the placket for the zipper, and here's the lining side. We put that right together and top stitch this. Now when I flatten this out, let me show you what this looks like. You would think that there was a big ridge there, but there's not. That's only about a 1/16 of an inch seam right there. So notice it lays pretty flat. So that seals up everything that we opened in order to repair this pocket. Pocket's all repaired, reinforced inside. All this is put back together. Now, I am going to take out my last pin that I had in the top over here, and then this is done. I hope you like this. This is a good way to do this. Not very hard. See you later.